Good evening and welcome back to a Dreamer's Paranormal Journal. We are here for our 6th installment this evening, and we're with Linda and we're with Jason tonight. So we want to welcome you back. We want to invite you all to like our page, Dreamer's Paranormal Journal. Go in, take a look at it, tell us what you think, ask us any questions you may want us to go. Remember, this show is about talking about positive attitudes and anything to do with paranormal. So tonight we've got a full lineup here for you this evening. We're going to be talking about the Burke and Hare grave robbers, and then the Shining Hotel ghost that was spotted, and then 10 forgotten truths to help you get through hard times. So we're pretty excited about this evening. We kind of did some research and reviewed a lot of stuff, so hopefully we can get some insights. Please feel free to check in with us or to message us if there's anything you want us to talk about. We've gotten close to 500 likes on our page, and we're pretty excited about it. So we want to continue doing whatever it is you like. So please give us feedback. Let us know what's going on. And so from here on out, I'm going to go ahead or not here on out, but right now I'm going to turn it over to Linda. She's going to talk to us about Burke and Hare, the infamous murderers and grave robbers.
Okay, Burke and Hare, Edinburgh's most ghoulish residents. In contrast to the increase in numbers of executions in the wake of the Bloody Code, the Judgment Death Act 1823 saw the number of crimes punishable by death in Britain drop dramatically. Good news in theory, but since medically, bodies or cadavers for those who had been condemned to death, this led to an extreme shortage of bodies available. However, the financial compensation offered by the medical schools meant that someone unscrupulous types soon found a way around the shortage of bodies, leading to a rash of grave robbery by those known as restitutionists. So in this case, these two guys would actually go into bars, random bars, and they would, I guess, get them drunk, anybody drunk, and basically you were dead by the next morning. And afterwards, after you were dead, there was no unexplained death or whatever, your body was then dug up by these two awesome people and used as cadavers by no choice. And if you look in the Edinburgh Cemetery, there's actually it's like a place you would stay for a whole week to guard your I guess relatives' remains, so that way nobody would steal the body. And it's kind of like a watchtower, I guess that's what it was called, a watchtower. And you just went ahead and watched over it, because of course the fresher the body, the more money it was worth.
So people were actually stealing bodies to make money off of them?
Yeah, where do you think Mary Shelley got the book Frankenstein from? He stole the body from the ground that was freshly... Well, in that case, he was looking at, what was it, the newspaper?
Mm-hmm.
The newspaper. And on the newspaper, they would see who their obituaries were. Or they would keep track of prisoners who died. And those prisoners would then, in turn, next day, the body was missing. They even would leave it open. They wouldn't care.
So what were these people that were selling these bodies? What were they doing? Were they
students?
They were students.
Students at the university, digging up these freaking poor people and using them as cadavers.
Oh, I see. So doing experiments on them.
Right, because there was no access to bodies. Like, there was a shortage of death.
Okay.
So in compensation of shortage of death, what happens next? Murder. Unexplainable murders that these two guys committed on a daily basis or weekly.
Gotcha.
And that's where that watchtower came in, and
So you were able to watch over your family.
Yeah, basically you did like a watch, like a graveyard watch. Mm-hmm. Every day somebody else would stay there and watch.
Interesting.
I mean, unless you were not lucky and they got murdered too. New cadaver.
So in any of these times where they were watching their family, was there any activity? Did they see something, maybe some paranormal ghosts or anybody come back? Is there any reports of that?
Actually, yes. When you take the tour of Edinburgh, they actually explain all the activity that goes around. You'll witness basically people walking in the graveyard at random times, and they're not there. A woman in black, a man in an old style costume. And I guess from the 1820s or something, in that kind of era.
Awesome.
Of course, you see a couple prisoners, an old man, and then of course their famous doggy that kept going back to the grave of his owner. Awesome. There's even a little statue of him. He's so cute.
Very cool.
I want one.
Very cool.
But of course, they did make a lot of money doing all this. They also were becoming impatient to see if anybody would actually die. Mm-hmm. And then Burke and Hare took it upon themselves to help him along, plying him with whiskey and then suffocating him by covering his mouth and nose while he was forcibly restrained. Awesome.
It's very awesome.
Hey, if you want a body, there's one way to get it. Also, they did it to local prostitutes. One of them, actually one named Jeanette Brown, was lucky to escape with her life when she and her friend Mary Patterson had been invited to stay. Having excused herself earlier the evening, Jeanette returned to find her friend missing and was told Mary and Brooke had stepped out. Having waited for her friend to return, Janet eventually decided to leave, having no idea that Mary had been lying dead in the next room, ready to be taken to Knox.
Interesting.
And that herself, she was next the lucky victim.
Very cool.
So they kind of had this stuff going. They'd even give their elderly grandmother was killed by an overdose of painkillers. He murdered his own grandmother. And also later on, he murdered his young grandsons by breaking the boy's back across the knee. Even a relative of Helen's, his wife, also killed him. Just killed him. So they were discovered on Halloween, of course, who knew? The last victim was on Halloween 1828. Major League Campbell
Doherty
was invited to stay with Brooke and Helen on the pretense that she was a distant relative. Brooke's other lodgers, a couple, James and Anne Gray, were invited to stay temporarily at Hare's boarding house that evening so the murder could take place. It's great. And she took a bribe of £10 a week, which would be $20 our money, which is a week. I guess $20 for them a week is a lot back then.
Right.
She took the bribe so that way, she'd keep her mouth shut after they killed the poor people.
Interesting.
They were, of course, prosecuted after, 3 years. Looks like maybe 3 or 4 years after doing this. The crowd cheered, of course, because now they didn't have to look after the bodies. But afterwards, the public did start donating bodies as cadavers, so that way the students would have cadaver bodies to autopsy and stuff like that.
Interesting.
I guess, you learn after a while. Can't get it? I don't want to be. I'm sorry, I don't want to be a cadaver. That place is scary. Have you been in a cadaver?
Have I been in a cadaver?
Have you been like where the cadavers are?
Like in a morgue?
Yeah, like in a morgue, like in a where they have it at the scary.
I've seen them, but I've never actually like looked at the cadavers or anything like that. But it is pretty bad.
It's gross. Like here in El Paso, there's Texas Tech University.
Mm-hmm.
They have with all the cadavers, and they have them on tables, and some of them are opened because they're either doing study of the students.
Yes.
So gross. It's gross.
It is gross.
I almost threw up.
No, I was just reading a little bit about grave robbery and the origins of it. I mean, obviously it started well back, probably before these guys started back then. The sad thing about grave robbery is that it does impede archaeological investigations. So when people are like the mummies' tombs and everything that had grave robbers that went in and stole that, prevented us to find out certain things like King Tutankhamun. His what was the real reason of his death, because things that were on his person at that point were taken from the grave and caused him to caused them to not be able to fully investigate what exactly caused his death. So that's kind of sad, if you think about it. These grave robbers are robbing more than just bodies. They're stealing history. They're stealing everything else from that. So it's pretty sad. But yeah, it's really, really sad, actually. It is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I was reading here on 10 disturbing stories of grave robberies. Thought you might be interested in that. One was Grandison Harris. He was a slave who belonged to the Medical College of Georgia. He was bought in 1852, and officially the school's porter and janitor. Unofficially, he was their body snatcher. Like others who shared this grisly profession, he was also known as a resurrection man, and his slave status afforded him something of an odd benefit when it came to this second job. As a slave, he couldn't be prosecuted by the law. Harris spent more than 50 years unearthing freshly buried bodies and supplying the students of the medical colleges with the corpses to dissect and learn from. His forward-thinking employers gave him all the tools that he needed to be a successful body snatcher. They even taught him how to read and write so he could keep an eye on newspaper obituaries. His uncanny flower arrangement skills, which came in handy when he needed to resemble funeral flowers after removing a body. One of his favorite stomping grounds was a Cedar Grove cemetery, where the most impoverished people were buried in coffins that were easily shattered by an axe. After the Civil War, Harris found himself a free and learned man. He took a position as a judge in the small town Georgia, but the students he had formerly supplied with dead bodies weren't about to let him forget where he came from, no matter how powerful he was by day. Harris continued his grave robbing activities and brokered deals to supply college with slightly more legitimate bodies purchased from prisons and hospitals. He also spent later years teaching finer points of grave robbing to his son, who ultimately replaced him at the college. In 1908, Harris gave a lecture at the college teaching others just how he managed to be a successful resurrection man. He died in 1911, was buried in the Cedar Grove Cemetery where he'd spent so many lamplit nights. Perhaps as a precautionary measure, there's no grave marker, only a monument. No one knows exactly where his body is actually buried. Wow. It's pretty strong stuff. And then there was a plot to steal Abraham Lincoln's body. I don't know if you know that. I'll read this one and then we'll move on. But
Rita's asking, did it say why they robbed the graves and committed murders? Well, the reason why they robbed the graves is because around that time they were running out of I guess people dying back then, and nobody that was dying or dead, the family wasn't donating the body as cadavers. So since there was such a shortage and there was more medical students that needed cadavers to work on, the next best thing was just to murder. And to do it in such a way that it didn't look like, to make it look like an accident, I guess. And then, of course, they would wait for the body to be buried, and then they would go after that late that night and dig up the grave and take the body. Or they would just take the body. I mean, one of the two. They would actually just, sometimes I've heard of them putting empty coffins. Because of course, once you're at that point of burying the person into the ground, they're not going to open the coffin, so they're just probably empty coffins everywhere, and the bodies are not there. So in Edinburgh, when you look at this, the cemetery actually looks like, I want to say it's maybe an acre or two of land, because it's still in its original spot, and the watchtower is maybe 10 feet tall, if that. And and the watchtower is in like the corner. And there's like a staircase to the very top of the watchtower. And in the watchtower there's a cot and a place to put your belongings. And basically you're there for the night. You're just there until you have to wait a week because the body starts to decompose, apparently, because the fresher the body, the more expensive it was, so the more money they made from the university. Basically, it was all about money and students needing supplies that they couldn't get, because I guess back then they just couldn't get a rat or something, because they're in Scotland and there's like not a lot of that, which is a lie because there's holes everywhere. But, of course, in order to do a better autopsy, they need an actual human body to do that. And nowadays, I think they get mostly their bodies now from prisons and people on death row, or whoever actually donates their body as cadavers. That's why I said I don't want it. I don't want to be chopped up. No. Thanks.
Well, going back to this, I'll read this and then we'll move on. It's kind of an interesting story. It looked like not all body snatchers were working in the medical field. And this is the story of the plot to steal Abraham Lincoln's body. Not all body snatchers were working in the medical field. Some of them were simply out for themselves. In the 1870s, Chicago was home to a gang of counterfeiters run by Big Jim Canali. All was well until he lost one of his top engravers to a 10-year stint in prison. But Canali wasn't about to let his man sit in prison if he could help it. Somehow Canali and his gang came up with an idea of stealing Abraham Lincoln's body and holding it for ransom, $200,000 in the release of their colleague. For some bizarre reason, the two men Canali hired to do the body snatching, part of the plan, had absolutely no experience in the field. The men, a nickel maker and a saloon owner, decided they were going to need a little help and hired a third man to help them. Unfortunately for them, the man that they hired was on the payroll of the then infant Secret Service. Their Secret Service assistant went through with the plan, and while telling the government exactly what was going on. When time came, they headed to the cemetery to cut the padlock off the crypt, as no one knew how to pick a lock out of the group, and were temporarily halted when they realized they had no way of moving the concrete slab that sealed the tomb. The Secret Service was about to arrest the men, but then someone's gun went off, alerting the ill-fated criminals to their presence. Fortunately, as we've already established, the body snatchers weren't that bright. They were apprehended when they retreated back to the saloon owner's bar. So, interesting little history there that went along with that. So I guess go ahead and let you all know that you're listening to a Dreamer's Paranormal Journal. We're happy to have you here with us this evening, talking about some stories. Our next story that we're going to speak about is the Shining Hotel ghost image at the actual hotel that was filmed with the original Shining from Stephen King. And just going through it, this story was brought on by CNN, so we'll probably post this on here so you can read it. But there was a tourist by the name of Henry Yao that recently had took a picture at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, which appears to show two ghostly apparitions standing on the staircase. In the photo, a woman could be seen at the top of the stairs in a period outfit with a child beside her. By golly, you wrote in the caption, I think I may have captured a ghost. If you read, he's got his Twitter feed here showing a picture of a lady with a child next to her. So that's pretty neat. Going through it, we were the only guest, as it turned out. The following day, they were going to close the place down for the winter. Wandering through its corridors, I thought that it seemed the perfect, maybe archetypical setting for a ghost story. And that's where Stephen King had wrote about why he wrote the actual Shining itself. And if you read on in the article, it also lets you know that it's actually the Timberline Lodge in Oregon. You see the opening scene from the film, and for the exterior shots of the fictional Overlook Hotel. When I actually didn't see the original one that was done with Jack Nicholson in it. I actually saw the second one that they actually did, the made-for-TV movie, and that one was amazing. I thought that one was pretty good. But that's pretty great that this guy visits this hotel and he sees this picture of
looks like a nun.
Yeah, ghost, or kind of like a nun, or maybe someone who's in like the pilgrimage
with like a little boy with a hat or something
right next to him,
and his hands on the rail.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So the Shining had a real ghost inside of it. Go figure, right? It's pretty awesome. Something we had seen, but yeah, it's pretty cool. If you read the biography of the story and where it came from, there they put a little bit of information in there. I don't want to bore you by reading all of it, but it's some pretty good info. Yeah, these were tourist photographs that were taken in there. Just looking at the Twitter feeds that were put on it. And then
it opened in 1909,
yeah,
so it would have been correct.
Yeah, it's very possible that, I mean, it looks like for that time era how the ladies dress in there. And more recently, the Stanley Paranormal past has been fully embraced, the hotel's website says. After the century of collecting spirits, the hotel has become renowned by specialists and experts in the field of paranormal investigation as one of the nation's most active sites. So if you get a chance, go visit this.
Which we will.
Yeah, we have to. We should go take a look at that.
Every year, one paranormal place at a time.
Got to have some fun with that one there. So that puts us over to our next segment, which is 10 Forgotten Truths to help you get through hard times.
All right, so I know we're going from the awesome eeriness to the hard times of every day, today, whatever. We're all going through some hard times. So to help you get through it, I found a few things here that might, give you some ideas. So the first one is pain is part of life, love, and it helps you grow. Honestly, I feel that's bullshit. But yes, it'll help you grow and learn from the experiences. But at the same time, if you let that in, it's not. You're just going to continue in this cycle of, oh, it's okay, like I want to use an example. Like if you're in an abusive relationship and something bad happens and you're just like, oh, it's okay, it was my fault. You're just going to do the cycle until you realize it's not your fault and you get the heck out of there. But, I mean, a lot of us are afraid of our own truth and most of our feelings. And then we talk about how great the concept of life and love are, but when we hide from both every day, we hide from our truest feelings, because the truth is life and love hurt sometimes. And sometimes this disturbs us a lot. It just disturbs us. I mean, we're taught at early age that all pain is evil and harmful. Yet, how can we ever deal with real life and true love if we're afraid to feel what we really feel? We need to feel pain just as we need to feel alive and loved. Pain is meant to wake us up, yet we try to hide our pain. Realize this. Pain is something to carry willingly, just like good sense, because it can only make you strong, and being strong is the only choice you kind of really have in this world. And being brave and, working through it. And then to deal with this, with the realities of life and love as you grow into a stronger, wiser, truer version of yourself, is just to accept it. Accept it. I mean, if you have to say it out loud, this hurts, or you suck, or, you hurt me, it's better than keeping it bottled up. The second one is mindset is half the battle. I mean, it's okay to have down days and tough times, expecting life to be wonderful all the time. You're gonna lose because it's not. I mean, it's like wanting to swim in an ocean in which waves only rise up and never crash down. However, when you recognize what rising and crashing waves are a part of the exact same ocean, you're able to let go and be at peace with reality of ups and downs. It becomes clear that life's ups require life's downs. So don't take it for granted. What comes up must come down at some point. And it happens all the time. You see it to celebrities. What comes up comes down and somebody replaces you. It's just what happens. And don't let negativity wear off on you. I mean, don't let the pain of the situation make you hopeless. And don't let the bitterness steal your sweetness. And this is really hard, because if you're in that situation, you can't help but be there. Then, I don't know, like me, I'm retaliating. So, I mean, that's all you can do. And mindset is especially powerful when it comes to accepting that. So accepting that people are jerks and just be yourself, it's what you have to do. People are jerks. And everyone's a jerk at some point. We all may not see ourselves that way, but in the end, we'll come off wrong to somebody, some point in our lives, and we can't help it. We just have to be who we are. And if being who we are makes us happy, then F everybody else. They either accept us or they're not. That's why you find people who actually like to be around you. Your biggest fears don't really exist. Like, my biggest fear is being gross looking and everything, but because that's how I see myself. And apparently it doesn't exist. But you know what? I feel like it does. I guess all you can do again is just follow your heart and take another step. I mean, it's a tragedy to let the lies and fear stop you from doing what you want to do in life. Although the fear can be overwhelming and defeats more people than other force in this world, it's not powerful as it seems. Fear is only as deep as your mind allows it. You are still in control, so take control. I guess the only other way I could say this is, like, if you're on a stage and you have stage fright, I have stage fright, but you know what? It's not going to stop me from performing. I'm just going to keep doing it until one day I don't feel it as bad. I shake. I'm on stage, I start shaking. But then when I start listening to the music and letting go, the shakes just disappear. Or if I'm talking in a room full of people, I'll start shaking because I'm scared and I'm afraid that I'm not saying something right. But once you start saying, you know what, F this, I got it, it starts to disappear. The anxiety starts to go away. I mean, you can beat your fear if you face it. Be courageous. And remember that courage doesn't mean you don't get afraid. Courage just means you don't let fear stop you from moving forward with your life. You just keep on going.
Princess Diaries, cool.
Yeah, I know. 4, you are growing through this experience or whatever experience. Through whatever it is, you're growing, you're learning from everything, and you're accepting it. I mean, with a positive attitude, you'll always be pleasantly surprised. When you stop expecting things to be a certain way, you can appreciate them for what they are. Ultimately, you will realize that life's greatest gifts are rarely wrapped the way you expect them. Experience is what you get when you plan, when your plans don't go as planned. And experience is the most valuable accommodating you own. It builds your strength. Basically, your wounds and worries turn into wisdom. I can't say anything tonight. Whatever. Just keep going. See, you just keep going. You push through it. You learn. You learn that. You learn how to say it out loud without tongue-tying yourself. Once you realize you've got this, it'll set you free. You'll feel free to do whatever you want, but just not too much. You gotta have some level-headedness there, and you can't change situations you don't like. You can't change situations you don't take responsibility for. So most people don't really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. Don't let this be you. When you blame others for what you're going through, you deny responsibility. You surrender power over that of your life. It's not in your power to make somebody else change because more than likely they won't. They'll just get worse. Can't help it. But I mean, once they see it in themselves, they can choose to be good, or they can choose to change themselves. You can't change anybody. So it's not your responsibility. Just look the other way, basically. Unless they're hurting themselves, then you need to intervene and tell them to quit it, knock the crap, and read this blog. But seriously, they need to, it's about being the hero in your life, not the victim. We gotta all quit playing victim to our own lives and start being our own heroes. No one's gonna save us but ourselves. I mean, we might save somebody else, but in the end, it's us against the world. That's how it is. The present is all you really have to deal with. So, alright. So basically this is like quit thinking about the past or someday, somewhere. Think about now.
Yeah.
I mean,
in a way, I agree with that. You can't let your past be what makes your future. I kind of like the quote that Steve Jobs gave when it came to this. Is like, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. As everybody knows, Steve Jobs is probably one of the most successful people ever in our modern era when it came to anything that came up technology-wise. And, this is basically how he kind of looked at things and how he lived his life in order to get through the bad times. So everybody knows he went through a lot of bad times before he finally got where he got. If you look at it, he's like, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect your future. And you have to trust in something. Your gut, your destiny, your life, karma, or whatever. This approach has never let me down and has made all the difference in my life. So I guess the way he looks at it is, yes, you always are going to go through tough times. I mean, no matter who you are at one point or another, it's a statistical reality that you're going to have to go through some really rough times. But in the end, those times are what shape you for what goes on. Learn from where it brought you to take you to something even, and trust and have the faith that it's going to take you to something better and guide you to a better destiny. A lot of people say when one door shuts, another door opens up for you. And that's what you have to be looking for, is that open door. Be open-minded enough to know that whatever is bringing you down right now has the opportunity to bring you right back up just as easily. So, yeah.
And we always, I guess, then, of course, with all that, through all the hard times in this world, you always have something to be thankful for. Breathing. You're breathing. Damn it. You're breathing. You're listening to this. You're breathing. Be happy you're freaking alive. A lot of people are in hospital beds. A lot of people came back from war without arms, legs, and they're still living. They're thinking about something they're thankful for and keep going. There's poor people on the street, but they have some positive thought that keeps them going. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. I know it's hard times that gets you there, but in order to keep going day to day, you have to be thankful for something. I mean, you're breathing. You smile at least once a day. You're doing right when you have so much to cry and complain about, but you prefer to smile and appreciate life instead. I mean, if you wake up tomorrow with only the things you were thankful for today, think of all the beauty that remains around you. See it and smile. Be thankful for all the small things in your life, because when you put them all together, you will see how significant they are. And at the end of the day, it's not happiness that makes you thankful, but the thankfulness that makes us happy. And also, great things take time, and instant results are really the best ones. So with patience, you can greatly expand your potential, and if your desires were fulfilled immediately, you have nothing to look forward to. You would miss out on the joys of anticipation and progress. To see the ending, keep a good attitude while you work for what you believe in. It's the willingness to stay focused, confidently taking one small step at a time, knowing that one way you move a mountain is by moving one stone at a time. Every stone you move, no matter how small, is progress. So just, even if you don't see it, like right now I'm having issues seeing stuff, but even if you don't see it, you just got to keep going and progressively work towards it. I know, just like we have this convention to go to in June, and I'm freaking out about it because I don't feel like the dance is done, which it is. I just gotta clean it up a lot. And then the costumes are coming in, which is cool, but I still gotta make the belts, which is not even done. I think I've drawn something out and I want lights, so that's just gonna make that even more, but it will happen. It'll eventually happen. I just gotta take deep breaths every day and work towards it, which is like impossible, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Sometimes you just gotta do it. Go get it done. Don't worry about it.
And remember,
the sooner you do it, the least that you put on your plate for making it happen. And that's the big thing right there. Sometimes you have to put a call to action to yourself. It's not easy. Sometimes The only real motivation that you have is the stuff between your ears that motivates you to keep going. It's not easy. It's hard. You have to force yourself, and sometimes you got to be like, okay, well, what do I need to do to make this happen? And you just have to do it. It's one of those things. It's hard. It's not an easy thing, but what makes it easy is you saying, when you finally make that, like she's saying about the mountain, every stone that you take to build that mountain will eventually fall to place. It's just a matter of what your emphasis is of doing that. And nothing worth having is ever easy. Ever. And I've always believed that, and I still believe that to this day. Nothing worth having is ever easy.
Yeah. I mean, because of this and everything, because of going through this process, I guess, if it wasn't for Jason, I'd feel alone. But I'm not alone.
Never.
And for those of you that are think you're alone, go get a fish. I mean, it's a physical thing, a creature, which makes you not alone. You'll have something to talk to, and it won't talk back. It'll just look at you like you're crazy, but you'll not be alone. I mean, hell, there's internet. There's posts. There's people all the time on the internet. You can talk to anybody that you need to talk to. If you really need that extra help, or just someone to talk about random crap. I mean, it's hard to trust somebody, but if you're not out there putting out your whole life, just talking about random stuff could get you through whatever it is.
And you may not even realize it, but you may think you're insignificant when it comes to things. But it's kind of like that movie, It's a Wonderful Life. It's one of my favorite movies, and obviously to watch during Christmas time. But it makes a really valid point. This guy was ready to end his life based on the fact that he thought he was worth more dead than alive. And in the end, he realized, and it's the truth, we don't see what kind of tapestry we weave with our lives. Our lives are interconnected. Everybody's lives are, to some point or another. Maybe we're not all one individual, but in a way, what we do impacts everything around us. And you may think you're alone, but in all truthfulness, you're not. There's no way you are, because what you've done, whether insignificant or great, has impacted somebody somehow, in some way. And you have to look at, okay, well, what if that's the case? Then now I mean something. My life means something. What I do means something. And you have to believe that, because that's what we're here for. We all want to impact this world in a specific way. We want to feel like we've contributed and done our part to make this world a better place, or to make this world be what it is. And life is unfair. I mean, truthfully, there's nothing about life that you would have to say is fair. There's a lot of things that are just not right. Bad things happen to good and great people, and even if it is a hard time you're going through, you got to realize you're going through it for a purpose, for a reason. And that reason may not be clear right now, but it may become clear later down the road. So every life thing that goes through is a lesson, whether good or whether it be bad. No matter how it is, you're gonna learn from whatever it is that is happening to you at that point. And it's best to look at it that way, because it's easier to move on from it when you do it. So
like Rita says, at times you just have to tackle things head on. You just have to do it. You have to,
like a bull in a china shop.
Let's do it. It's
a bull in a china shop.
So you got to say is, let's do this. Bring it on. Just
we were doing some home improvement activities here in the last couple of weeks, and one of the things I said, I'm like, I'm gonna have to go through this like a bull in a china shop. And think about that. A bull in a china shop, it's a pretty funny thought, because a bull's gonna destroy everything that's around it in order to rebuild it into something better. I mean, and that's what it boils down to. That's what that whole saying goes from. And sometimes you have to be a bull in a china shop in order to take something and put it where it needs to be. To take what's not working and something to make it better. They always said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a better result.
Yeah.
So if you're keeping doing the same thing and expect to have something better happen, then that's what it is. It's kind of like with my Uber driving recently. I've kind of changed my tactics on how I handle that, and I actually improved my earnings because of it. So it's all a matter of how you are perceiving things. If you got something that's not working for you and you've been doing the same thing and are expecting it to get better, then you're kind of, I mean, I guess they're basically saying you're insane. I wouldn't say you're insane. I think that's a little strong, but you're not going to do anything to help your situation. Nothing helps you by staying stagnant. If you have to change something to make it better, do it. Do what it takes to make it better. Because that's what makes life go round. I mean, we gotta keep moving and keep making things happen. So again, you're listening to a Dreamer's Paranormal Journal. You're here with Linda and Jason this evening. We want to invite all of you out to check out our webpage on Facebook. If there's things you want to hear about or topics you'd like to talk about, we've gone through tonight, just as a recap, talking about Burke and Hare's grave robbers and murderers, the Shining Hotel ghosts that were spotted on the CNN headline that came through, and the 10 forgotten truths about how to handle rough, tough times.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we've discussed this evening, and again, we're gonna try to have topics for you each week, but we don't want to be the only ones talking. We want to hear from you. It's important to us. We want to make this an interactive show, get people on to talk. If you'd like to be a guest speaker on it and speak with us, let us know. Go to our page. You can message. Yeah, we want to hear your thoughts.
I'm willing to argue with anybody. I don't care. Let's argue.
Let's do it. Let's hear what you got to say. Again, we're trying to make this a fun, interactive piece to Wolf Paw Radio. And I mean, honestly, we're here to help you through a rough week. I mean, our goal, yes, we do talk about paranormal and we do talk about different things, but we want to make your time as positive as possible. Give you opportunity to let us know what's on your mind.
Yeah, we have a snake that keeps climbing the walls and jumping. We think she's committing suicide, but I'm not sure yet. And
I think she just wants out of her cage.
I know she wants out, but she can't be out all the time.
Yeah. I'll get her out. Once we're done here, we'll take her out and let her play a little bit.
You hear a big thud, and then she's all like backwards on the cage, and then belly up, and then she comes around like, hey, you see me, take me out.
Yeah, she's looking at us right now like it's time to come out of the cage and play a little bit. But I guess I'll pick her out of there once we're done here. I think she's trying to signal us over there.
I know. I don't know how many thuds. I think it's like the whatever.
She's trying to do Morse code to let me out of my cage.
Well, also there's events coming up. Special one in May. And then there's another one coming up in June in Spokane, Washington. It's the Dangerous Belly Dance Curves Convention. And there's a show on the 11th of June at 7 at the Red Line Hotel. Myself and my girls will be performing along with a lot of other talented dancers from all around the United States. And we'd like to see you there if you're nearby or close by and you'd like to see a really cool show. We'll be there, and I'm trying to see how I can do a live show feed from there. I know I can get the webcam working, and I guess I'll just have to see if we can do something live. Or I need to get a better phone so I can do a live show.
Could show you the snake life.
No.
Yeah.
Probably strike the freaking camera.
No, she would not. She's nice.
Strike it.
She's nice.
She's gonna shut again. Anyways, so you're listening to a Dreamer's Paranormal Journal with Linda and Jason Hernandez on Wolf Hall Radio. And there is a show in the morning, the Chat Room Morning Show, every morning at 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., sometimes earlier. And talk about everything, basically. Everything, anything. If you have something you'd like to share with us on air, you can get in contact with them, or you can get in contact with us, and we'll gladly have you on air. It's 9:50 p.m. Time to kind of wrap things up here. I know we weren't on yesterday, but we were just kind of scared that it wasn't going to work out the way we wanted. So we just kind of winged it today. And of course, if you have any other topics you'd like us to research or talk about, you let me know, and I'll go ahead and research that topic for you. I mean, if you have like a essay or, a paper due that you need research done, I can do that too. Talk about that. So I hope to hear from you guys soon. I know I have a few responses from all over the world, but no one's actually given me anything they want me to talk about yet. So, guess we'll go ahead and call it a night.
Thank you all very much for your time this evening and spending time with us. Appreciate you listening in, and hope to hear from you next week.
Thank you, and you're awesome, amazing, and don't forget to tell yourselves that every morning when you look into the mirror. I hope you all have a good night. Thank you for listening.